So, the question today, how can we gauge our individual comfort levels, both through the group and within the self? When is disharmony and discomfort to be recognized as a growth opportunity instead of as a signal to withdraw? I am Auxhall. I greet you, my brothers and sisters of this most esteemed group, in the resonant name of our one infinite Creator. It is an honor and privilege to join you, and we thank you for making the space for this gathering, in the room for our participation. For it is nice not to be a fly on the wall for once. We bring you the blessings and respect of the Confederation of Planets in service to the one infinite Creator. And we ask that you keep your focus, your balance, and allow us to move among you. We have occasion to make contact with each member of this circle. And this is a practice we have long sought to reintroduce into the tradition of which you and we are a part. You may help us in accepting this contact on your own terms, not on ours. You have before you the work of a human life. This is most precious to us, but we cannot interfere by crossing the line into infringement on free will. We must respect and honor those maneuvers you enact to keep your orientation, and can only blow as a cool, soft breeze as a matter of communication on these matters. Therefore, keep your own counsel, my friends, and evaluate each word we speak through this instrument with the utmost diligence and care, not for some grand project, though it is grand, but as a matter of personal refining and resonance. You know the message you need to hear, for you will feel it as being reminded of a long-lost story, a fact that simply never before occurred to you until you hear it and the circuit is complete. The connection across time made. And this describes how we seek to relate to you as brothers and sisters, reminding you of your future. For you are not separate from us except through the illusion of time and space. And you will quite soon recognize how unbound you truly are in these media. How they are not the limitations that they seem in third density, but are the freedom to articulate the Creator in a new position, in a new modality that calls back to the chorus on high. Thank you for using your discretion and discernment in interpreting and grounding our message so that we may speak freely around the campfire and be a true, equal part of this circle. No more and no less. This exposition will give you some entry into our views on groups this afternoon. There is a sense in which the circle is the appropriate model for a group. It is uniform in its radius around the center. It is clear to us that the position we take around this center helps the entire circumference discover its position, just as you help us recognize our legacy in the deep, visceral seeking process that comes about when a mind-body-spirit complex first catches a pale reflection of the Creator, of the Spirit, and begins to reflect on itself. This recapitulates the entire drama of manifestation in the octave. It is magnificent and beautiful to sit with. And we encourage you as a group to not always pick apart the model. You will always find a note in the chord that seems a bit dissonant. And it is often the case that mind, body, spirit complexes in front of the veil in third density become too fixed on a perfect circle, a perfect chord, and they begin to doubt that they are on the beam, so to speak. Instead of accepting the evidence of their feelings and of their perceptions, as illusory as they are, they look to fix something, to repair back to a point where they had ground under their feet, as the Buddhists say. And this is a return to the mode of consciousness that a second density mind-body complex projects. It is your duty to be where you are and nowhere else. And in a group, you have the benefit of the wave effect of harmonization, so that you must not always be, as a complex yourself, perfectly balanced. You may lean, so to speak, upon other members. And it does not feel like dependence, does it? Instead, it feels like a coming out of yourself, out of the cave of isolation that affords you a great opportunity to focus in on your growth, to block out other details in a loaded universe, and to fix the attention on the matter at hand, the lesson, the object of catalyst that stands out to you as a wrong note in the symphony. This is not anything that a entity seeking will be able to avoid at all times. In the group is a vessel in which you can pour the self, such that you must not always maintain that integrity of containership that you normally must perform in this yellow ray matrix of society, or in the orange ray moments where you are alone with another, even if that other is that part of yourself you do not greet on a usual basis. Now, when you are emptying the self in this manner, you achieve a level of comfort often. And this is a factor in your vibratory complex of being. For it is true that resonance feels good and dissonance feels bad. There's no getting around this. But we would offer a moment of reflection on this dissonant mismatch with the molecule that you are forming together. For sometimes it just won't feel right. And this can be difficult to accept when one is looking to get out of one's own head. One does not always have a helpful perspective on oneself, on one's relationship to the world about it. Our contact is of this nature, this complementary wave to your wave. And we seek to demonstrate in some nuanced variety of example how one might go about turning the cube and seeing it from, we correct this instrument, viewing another facet of this object. This is what the projective character of manifestation allows. This illusion of distance that creates isolation and loneliness, but that also allows for the remove that brings a new view over the horizon, a new reflection of self and creator. And groups accomplish this when members learn how to be in them, how to form collective intentions, not as a matter of ceremony and process, but as an individual act of tuning. When you were small, you had about you those family members who provided orientation. The protection was not absolute. The guide, we correct this instrument, the guardrails, not always in place. One skins the knee on a frequent basis when one's coordination is not adequate for the physical matrix in which one grows and has its being. Yet, one can have growing trust in the interaction of these guardians, or parents, or friends, so that one can lay aside the dangerous conditions that are always present and instead achieve a focus. And in this manner, a self can be built that can approximate a creator in manifestation, fully capable of handling any situation, no matter how discombobulating, no matter how perilous, no matter how constraining. One can be the creator in that situation in better or worse ways, my friends. You demonstrate this at this moment and in all previous moments. The lineage of selfhood that extends from infinity outwards to infinity. And if this is, we correct this instrument, if this circumscribed the entire nature of the group, well, this would be a simple matter of unification across the planet and onwards up the hierarchy of the creation. However, there is also the infinity within, and it is impossible not to plummet. This is an important phase of growing as a mind-body-spirit complex, for it is within the self that one first encounters a version of the group that is seemingly under control, seemingly under one's thumb. And yet one learns through the reflection afforded by behavior in the physical illusion that one is vaster than one can possibly realize, and that an entire sector of the self, the vast majority in fact, is off limits from direct manipulation. The parents help one work with this inscrutable side of the self by offering that leavening agent of discipline. And one learns to internalize this discipline, for better or worse, as a way of working with the mystery within. We point this out, my friends, because that experience of plurality within and its indeterminate nature then gets projected outside the self when one encounters the possibility for alignment of intentions, you see. How you relate to the group is a reflection of how you relate to the other selves within yourself. And vice versa. How you relate within the self will have much to do with how you relate to the group. This is part of the mystery that our brothers and sisters of the planet Monka have been beating a drum on, so to speak, to help you with the full experience of catalyst at this late hour in third density, so that you have options, my friends, so that you feel the freedom that the graduation to fourth density will make you fully realize. Now, this is all well and good, is it not? One works and works and works, whether outside the self or inside the self. And one looks forward to the fruition of the project completed. The comfort that will obtain from finally reaching one's destination. And this is a kind of teasing, sometimes, seemingly, because you are displaced from this position of comfort. And as we said earlier, you must be precisely where you are. And though time may be an illusion, and one may have faith of future fruition, and one may use faith, as we have earlier spoken of, as an orienting mechanism, it still is the case that one must pay attention to feelings that announce something unpleasant. And it is unpleasant right up in your face, not in this at a distance position that makes the perspective come into focus. And when it is right up in your face, the blood pressure raises. We correct this instrument. The blood pressure rises. And the sweat begins. And the old patterns of fight or flight come into one's body. And this is part of having a body, that it nails you to the spot where you are, where you cannot escape. You have options on how to relate to it, but you are relating from this fixed position. We recognize on a deep, deep level that the sinkhole of indifference, so prevalent on your planet, is born in great part of this search for comfort. For seeking is of the dusty feet and the sunburnt brow, the tattered rags, and the shaky walking stick. This is the delicacy of a creator in manifestation. The peril of caring enough to reach out to other selves and to be of service. In fact, and we ask this instrument to steady a bit, there is a sense in which service, the outward expression of the Creator's love, cast into manifestation, is to be juxtaposed with the inward retraction that typifies the search for comfort. It is clear to us, my friends, that talking you out of seeking comfort is a losing proposition. Your peoples have demonstrated this in spades, so to speak. So what is to be done? For only in service, either ruthless service to the self or a ruthless focus on service to others, will build your recognition of the energy expenditures necessary to work at the next level. My brothers and sisters, you have spoken of a latency, a distance of time that is between the recognition of pain or discomfort and the acceptance or soothing that takes this problem out of the equation, so to speak. Do you see, perhaps, how this latency mirrors in time the distance that you achieve in the projected illusion of manifestation, such that you can gain perspective? Do you see how these two collections of dimensionality refract the single intention of evolution? Do you therefore see how, when the moment you are in does not give you a good vibe, so to speak, you have the illusion of space to work with, and vice versa? When place does not suit you, you have the tool of time to create the distance that allows for the proper, or shall we say, alternative view of the situation. We sound so fancy, this confederation of alien life forms speaking to you. And yet, our message is so utterly simple. Change your perspective in time, in space, within, without, and open up the treasure chest to find the gold within. It is there. But X marks the spot. And when you're in that spot, you're there. And when you're not at that spot, you're not there. And this is how it must be if evolution is to have a meaning in any sense. If it is to dramatize the Creator's search for itself. Now, this is quite abstract, we would admit plainly. We of Auxhall recognize that it is our remove from the third density illusion that gives us this ability to blithely spit out such a string of words, so to speak. You may greatly value this monologue, but it is a shadow of what we seek to offer. For we reach back to you as we reach back to our own selves in third density. So, are there any practical ways that we can give you to work with these overwhelming concepts? Yes, but you may not appreciate them right away. It is very important, if you are to learn how to come into harmony with things that seem dissonant at first, that you develop a kind of regularity in your own waveform, your own vibration. You cannot always achieve this immediately. And therefore, you can use time as a friend and develop a pattern of checking in with yourself on a regular basis. The periodicity of the daily ritual has been suggested and is very helpful, for it allows one to create the reminder such that one does not always have to be okay inside. And it gives one an opportunity to use imagination to project into the mind what the physical illusion cannot reflect into the senses. You will not become, as our friend Eric mentioned, comfortable with discomfort immediately. But over time, with the reflection and the balancing that reviewing catalyst provides, you can learn how discomfort and the having been nailed to a spot in time and space is not an indication that you are dying or losing or drowning or about to be prey to a predator. We reiterate that these patterns of panic and feeling an eerie sense of danger are well earned, and they are bodily. They do not ask your permission to manifest in your consciousness. But they can, however, be accepted and soothed with the exposure therapy of the balancing techniques that our brothers and sisters of the complex of Ra have once offered a circle very similar to yours. There are many threads bound up in those things that pull us off our center. It is nice and comforting to think that it is one mistake, a single error. That would be such a wonderful place to be, would it not? But this is not the nature of third density catalyst. No. Third density catalyst tends to manifest as a dissonant chord, as a tangle of energies. And you give yourself the best chance of working with them when you can review at a moment of repose and carefully untangle things. This is not new information, but we wish to emphasize the resources at your disposal, my friends. It is similar to how you learn to relate to groups that are not necessarily a good fit. For the first thing that smacks you in the face, so to speak, is your distaste for the dissonant group. And it is only with some reflection of time that you learn exactly what it is that is pushing your buttons, as they say. Apply this in all aspects of life where discomfort introduces itself as a friend. It is bringing many things to bear. Otherwise, it would not confuse you so. And the balancing techniques are designed to sort these out so that you are working with pure waves of energy instead of a massive waveform too complex to hear the Creator's melody. Now, this is not to say that every group will be a good fit. It is to say that you, in doing this balancing, this untangling, this reflecting, can learn what it is about the group that is a bad fit, so that you need not reject the group just because you reject the fit. This is a lesson we have hoped to transmit to this instrument as much as to this group, for it is easy to make an enemy out of that which is uncomfortable. And we mean that quite literally. It is the laziest way to relate to the catalyst. It is not wrong, but it does not take advantage of what the unconscious is unveiling before you. And this is a precious opportunity for a balancing, growing mind, body, spirit complex. Do not fritter it away if you can help it. We would wrap up the comments on this to suggest that you have resources within yourself that aid in the untangling when the knot is too tight. Just because it's not all under your control does not in any way indicate that you do not have help. In fact, it is, as we have earlier said, the opening to help that opens the self to the greater nature of the self. And this is the most apt understanding of the beneficence of the group energy. When you learn that it isn't all about you, and therefore your problems, your flaws, your regrets can be stepped away from for a moment. And you may pour yourself, mind, body, and spirit, heart and soul, into a new container. And you can be there for a little while. And you can have that view for a little while. And in this way, the group sees each other most tenderly home to where the origins of this vibration we all seek to feel out find themselves. You see, in your discomfort, you have the calling card of the Creator deep within your heart. And so do not hate it. Do not fret about discomfort, even though you do not need to always appreciate it utterly. It connects you with your Creator through your co-creators. Pain and suffering we have through other instruments pointed out is just as pregnant a means of connection, as joy and hope. And you have little idea how you have healed your brother or sister by providing a hug and a shoulder to cry on. This is true work of magic, my friends. And to this work, we of Auxhall commend you with deep respect and love. At this time, if there are follow-up questions on this topic, we of Auxhall would entertain them. I am Auxhall.
How is it that we can gauge our own inner balance?
I am Auxhall, and I am aware of your query, my sister. Yes, this is a topic we did not quite call out with the proper framing. For much of the group work is involved in reflecting this balance within. At the very moment it is most potentially embarrassing or obvious to others. It is in other selves that you will see the starkest and in some ways most vicious reflections of self. And this is as it should be. However, how should you gauge your energy on your own terms? We understand your question as. And this is a good question. We think from our experience on planet Auxhall in third density that the work with the energy system provides one of the best mirrors that do not rely on social systems and encounters. For these opportunities are very helpful, but they sting often. And too much discomfort is not helpful, is not conducive to the inner searching that spiritual evolution requires. You have a column of 7 centers, my sister. We assure you that they are there. Just as we assure you of our speaking through this instrument. If you do not believe that we manifest in this way, then in your illusion we have no existence per se. And this is similar with the energy system. You must use the illusion of distance in time and space somewhat similarly to how we previously spoke. There are 7 selves that can be tapped into at any moment. And they have a kind of reference position. This is the great advantage of embodiment, my sister. That just as one always knows how to grab one's foot or scratch one's nose, one always knows, for example, where the heart is. the green ray energy center that is the center of the system in the context of the illusion. Or the blue ray center, where love gains that fierce character that does not require it to be reflected just as one wants in the other, but instead holds forth on its own terms and becomes that much closer to that indigo ray center where one is co-creator in full realization. We would suggest that a relationship with one's energy system provides a feedback mechanism that goes beyond the thinking of the mind, the emotional violence, so to speak, of the endocrine system of the body, and begins to give one a kind of map of the self that can be walked. We suggest the practice of walking this map daily, beginning with the red ray center at the root. It is your task to use your psychogeographic consciousness complex to locate it. Wait patiently, concentrating on your base of spine. Think of those aspects of the red ray that would obtain in your history, your awareness. When have you feared for your safety? When have you felt powerful? And then find in the body where this manifests. Then, where has this energy of visceral, we correct this instrument, visceral physicality of the fountain of life energy pouring into you, where does it meet another? Or those parts of the self that seem separate? Walk up to orange ray and feel where that is. And continue in this manner through the yellow, through the green, into the blue and indigo, and finally let it pour out from the violet ray center on the top of the skull. We know that this will seem like woo-woo, so to speak, to many who are exposed to this message, and that is okay. For there are other ways to gauge as well. And they have their advisors who will consult with them in the manner they seek, they attract to themselves. We of Auxhall have the task of sharing our preferred techniques. And we encourage you to take the necessary time to get to know this aspect of the body that connects the emplacement of a mind-body-spirit complex at a position in coordinate space and linear time into a system of focused reflections of self, so that these threads of catalysts that we have spoken of can be untangled, You see, the refraction of the Creator's energy into 7 rays gives one a kind of key by which these muddied energies that present can be dissembled, we correct this instrument, disassembled, and appreciated as strands of lessons on their own terms, and each one given the respect and care required. Does this resonate with you, my sister?
Yes, very much so. Thank you.
We thank you. We are those of Auxhall, and ask the group if there is another question to which we may address our complex. We are those of Auxhall, and fear we have exhausted this group and this instrument. This is a confusing topic even for us, because our very seeking path at this moment comes from a resolute balance with our entire planetary group. And therefore, we retrace our steps from third density when we address these questions that you pose. What we are afraid of, so to speak, is that we make it seem too easy. And therefore, we make you feel like you are not as far along on your path towards polarization in the fourth density than you are. But we assure you, the masters struggle with these things too. They simply learn how to become comfortable with being nailed to that spot. And when they become uncomfortable, just like you, they squirm in their chair and they fidget and they wait for the great tool of time to rotate their orbit back. And they also adjust their position relative to the center. We assure you that no effort expended in working on the self is wasted. None whatsoever. Keep working on your relation to the center of self, for this is the path to the Creator, and it is also the best way of connecting with others orbiting that center. We beat this metaphor into the ground because it is useful to think of the self as always in motion, never fixed, but constantly relating to a single concept of unity. And in this way, one can think of service and growth as expressions of the Creator through the fabric of manifestation into the glory of realization. This glory is so delicious. And we share the cup with you, my brothers and sisters. We are those of Auxhall, and would at this time take our leave of this circle. We leave you in the love and light of the one infinite Creator, Adonai Vazu Barakas.